Hello, dear viewer. Ween Iceberg. It's a trivia sheet. Top is the most known, bottom is the least known. Credit to Redditor Victor Verman. He made the whole iceberg, I didn't make it. That's all. Let's dive in, shall we? Ocean Man. I have a feeling you know this one. It's their biggest song by a fairly wide margin. A little over 150 million streams on Spotify, almost 7 times more streams than their second most streamed song, being Tried and True. SpongeBob SquarePants was influenced by the mollusk. A bit more common knowledge, I think, but I'll explain it. Steven Hillenburg, creator of SpongeBob SquarePants, was a big fan of Ween and the mollusk. The idea for SpongeBob was a result of Hillenburg listening to the mollusk. It inspired the original comic book Hillenburg based the series off of, in fact. It'll come up more later, we'll see. Boognish. It's their logo. That's about all there is to it. As for the creation of the logo, I've got an incredibly long excerpt from the inside of the God Ween Satan CD case. It says, Ween plays gospel music. Ween is here to spread the word of their lord, the demon god Boognish. Boognish appeared first to Ween in 1984 when Dean and Jean were 14 years old. They, Dean and Jean, were not friends, and they shared little in common. Upon the first sighting, Boognish communicated to them what had to be done, and later that day, Ween recorded onto tape the holy picture that he had painted for the two boys. He has since appeared only twice, once to punish Jean for trying to leave the band. The other time, Ween will not discuss. Since the apparition first appeared, Ween have recorded legitimately over 1,000 songs, and they have not even yet begun to accomplish their task of spreading his name on their earth. Ween ate dinner with Harrison Ford once, and he thought they were dicks. God is sinless and humane, so is Satan. And Jean claims to hold the balance between the two. Ween still don't really like one another. And at times, one must really wonder why they're still together after all these years. When you witness the obvious dislike between the two and ask them why they haven't split, Jean starts to cry, remembering what happened in his last moment of weakness. Diener is too stupid to quit. Many people don't know about Ween yet, but those who do are more loyal than any deadhead. God, Ween, Satan, the oneness, will make you question the duality of man. At moments, you will be pleading to God for forgiveness, and at other times, you will feel the need to suffer for your most holy Satan. Don't be confused. This strange phenomenon is the power of the Boognish, taking control of your soul. You need not be scared. There's nothing wrong with these feelings. You are experiencing the common vision that brought Jean and Dean together and keeps them from breaking up. There's nothing you can do. You can put the CD on random play and the same tears of love and hate will fall from your eyes no matter what sequence the songs are in. In the event that it becomes too much for you, Ween has listed their address on the record so you can write for their guidance. Don't bother the people at Twin Tone with your new road to self-discovery leaves you confused. Just follow your soul and he will help you find the road. Whatever the fuck that means. The Stallion. The wiki describes the Stallion as a mysterious figure that rides through some Ween songs. This, of course, includes all 5 parts of the Stallion, but also includes Ask the Dragon, Das Bullshit, Jeaner's Gone, Stallion Master, and the English and Western Stallion. Heart-shaped box photo. It's just a picture of the guys with a heart-shaped box. Brown. Brown is a term the band uses to describe songs that feature unconventional sounds, strange off-putting tracks, kind of shit like that. According to Diener, brown means fucked up in a good way. And the term originates from Diener's boss at Princeton Record Exchange. However, his boss defined the term as when something is falling apart. Real names. If you could believe it, these two gentlemen are not legally named Dean and Jean Ween. They are Michael Melchiondo and Aaron Freeman. It's Pat cameo. It's Pat is a 1994 Saturday Night Live film based on the character Pat, described as an androgynous misfit whose sex is never revealed. If you could believe it, that movie bombed. Their appearance in the film was actually several minutes long, and they even had speaking roles in the movie. I'll play a short clip here, or it got copyrighted and the video's going to skip and you'll never see it. 2 songs also featured in the film, being Pork Roll, Egg and Cheese, and Don't Get Too Close to My Fantasy. Thorns. The artwork for Ween's Quebec record was actually based on a board game called Thorns. Diener had the idea after seeing the game at a flea market. The cover was then drawn, featuring Dean and Jean, in place of the couple on the cover of Thorns. God, Ween, Satan, The Oneness Anniversary Edition. A little wackiness here, the band re-released the God, Ween, Satan record for its, quote, 25th anniversary, which was actually its 11th anniversary in 2001. It featured 3 new tracks, being Bumblebee Part 2, Stacy, and Hippie Smell. Loop-de-Loop, a song written by Ween featured in SpongeBob Season 2 Episode 21, titled Your Shoes Untied. That's about it. Andrew Weiss, a friend of the band as well as their producer and former bassist. Diener has also described him as their mentor and big brother. He's also been credited on a couple records with the synthesizer, percussion, drums, strings, and keyboards. He can be heard on the bass up until 12 Golden Country Greats as well, when he took a break from the band. Mean Ween. Mean Ween, real name Christopher Williams, is the band's original bassist, though he was never named as an official member. His last credited appearance was on The Mollusk, and his final show with the band would be in 2000. He's also the strange figure on the album cover of The Pod. The Best of Leonard Cohen. Like I just mentioned, Mean Ween is on the album cover for The Pod. What I didn't mention was that the cover for The Pod is actually just the album cover for The Best of Leonard Cohen, a compilation record he released in 1975. They pasted Mean Ween's head on the cover over Leonard Cohen and called it a day. Pod. The album is actually named after a real farm the duo lived in that they called The Pod, where they moved in late 1989 until their eviction in October of 1991. They said while living at The Pod, they had recorded around 3,600 hours of material, but there's nothing but their word that really suggests that. The Pod was of course recorded here, but so is a good chunk of God, Ween, Satan, and the entirety of Pure Guava. Brown Bass. Brown Bass is a neat little website that lists all of Ween and their spin-off set lists. It has an archive of recordings, a semi-complete set list of their entire history, as well as a Ween news section. Breakup. I believe this is in reference to the brief period the band broke up beginning in 2011 and ending in 2015. The breakup is believed to have been due to Jeaner's ongoing drug and alcohol addictions. He felt their connection between Ween itself and drugs and alcohol was too strong for him to stay with the band, and his wife believed it would be best for him to leave. Erica Peterson's Flaming Crib Death, The Crucial Squeegee Lip, Prime 5, and Axis, Bold as Boognish. The band's first 4 releases were exclusively released on cassette tape. They're pretty rare finds, and to be frank, they're not all that good. There's also some, questionable tracks here, but I digress. Live albums, some incredibly common knowledge here. They have live albums. Live in Chicago is a really good one. If you're looking for one, I recommend that. South Park, the 25th anniversary concert. A concert South Park had for their 25th anniversary, though I guess you probably figured that out. It featured Ween, Primus, as well as Trey Parker and Matt Stone, the creators of South Park. There were 2 nights of concerts, and Rush actually came on the second night as well. Cool show, check it out if you want. South Park cameo. The band was featured in Season 2, Episode 14, titled Chef Aid, where the band performed at a concert to help Chef pay for some legal trouble. They played the song The Rainbow, a pretty funny track. Check it out.
Dude, I thought you knew him. Oh, well. Anyways, here's our song. The many colors in the homo rainbow. Don't be afraid to let your colors shine.
Moist Boys. Moist Boys are a hard rock duo consisting of Dickie and Mickey Moist, or Guy Heller and Diener, founded during their time living together at the Pod. Some pretty interesting shit released under these guys. Check it out if you want. Diener's face while playing guitar. Diener makes weird faces when he does guitar solos. That's about it. Vancouver 2011. A really tragic show I've seen celebrated on the internet a couple times. An incredibly dark moment in the life of Mr. Gene Ween when he arrived on an undisclosed substance and delivered an incredibly subpar performance in Vancouver. A journalist attending the show said, quote, "As his bandmates nailed every stop and start note, Freeman stood there like a drunk simpleton who couldn't, despite his best efforts, figure out how to keep time on a tramborine. Things didn't get any better when he stepped up to the mic. Early numbers like Mr. Richard Smoker and Transdermal Celebration were advance warning that Freeman would be spending the night singing in a voice that was a weird, high-camp cross between Ethel Merman and the Heat Miser from A Year Without Santa Claus. Things went from bad to worse quickly. To the visible dismay of Melchiando, Freeman totally blew the lyrics right after the epic guitar solo in Buckingham Green, and he decided it was easier to sit on the stage than to stand for mutilated lips. Eventually, the rest of the band just walked off the stage. While the journalist covered a good amount of the bases, I'd say the most haunting performance in this setlist is the song Birthday Boy, an already heartbreaking song about someone who doesn't really know if they're going to make it, performed by a man so visibly broken it's hard to watch. A really tragic moment for the band, and especially for Jeaner. Matt Stone and Trey Parker directed Even If You Don't's music video. That's pretty self-explanatory. Canceled 40th anniversary tour. The band had a tour scheduled in 2024 celebrating their 40th anniversary. They canceled the tour after, I believe, 3 shows due to Diener's debilitating mental health. Tough times. Homo Rainbow. Homo Rainbow, also known as The Rainbow, is a track written by the band for the South Park Chef Aid episode I mentioned earlier. In the show, the clip of the song is fairly short, but on the studio version, Isaac Hayes, the voice of the character Chef, can be heard on parts of the song. The track was also initially removed from the studio release of Chef Aid due to the controversial title, but the track was later included under the name The Rainbow as opposed to Homo Rainbow. Transdermal Celebration solo was done using Carlos Santana's guitar. It's there in the title, but the story is pretty cool. Diener recalled the event in an interview and said, "So we're in the middle of this session and I get a phone call from my roadie, who also worked for a backline company that supplied amps, drums, lights, etc. to bands touring in the Northeast. My roadie told me that Carlos Santana's equipment, including his guitars, had arrived via a trucking company that night at their depot. Carlos was recording an appearance on Good Morning America the next morning and his equipment was to be delivered to the set in New York City in a few hours. What needed to be done was immediately clear to me. I had an opportunity to play the solo on Transdermal Celebration through Carlos Santana's amplifier and guitar. I had one shot at it. It meant taking a hard disk recorder to a storage space where all of Carlos's stuff was sitting in transit. I arrived at 2 a.m. We very carefully unpacked his equipment and set up his stage gear, and in one take I recorded the guitar solo for Transdermal Celebration, the one that appears on the record, playing through Carlos Santana's guitar, pedalboard, and amplifier. The song took 10 minutes and we were terrified we were going to get caught. A lot of people would have lost their jobs. We got the fuck out of there really fast after that. So the solo on Transdermal Celebration was played through all of Santana's shit in what resembled an early morning bank heist or something. Pretty cool shit. The Caesar Demos, a demo tape released for free on Facebook by Diener in late 2011. The tape is over 100 minutes long and is a compilation of both demos and outtakes, mostly from the recording sessions for Quebec and a few from the White Pepper sessions. There was a rumor that this tape's release indirectly caused the band's breakup in 2012, as it was believed that Diener reacted fairly negatively to the album's release, but this turned out to be a false rumor started by some goofball Redditor. Creators of the Sack, another strange release from the band, this one released online, again by Diener, in 1999, accompanied by the message, "On your desktop right now, you possess Ween's worst album of all time. It's called Creators of the Sack, and it was recorded between 1996 and 1999. Take this record, translate it to cassette, and then shove it directly up your ass. Enjoy. Play the motherfucker loud." Diener also touched on the record's release and said, "Mickey posted that right after Elektra told us they were putting out that live record on their label. Creators of the Sack is just a bunch of outtakes and dumbass songs we never put on a record, but are pretty awesome anyway. It's totally brown. There's some funny shit on there." Creators tracks reappearing on Shinola. Shinola is a compilation record released by Ween after Quebec, featuring some of the band's unreleased B-sides, mostly from the Mollusk and Quebec sessions. A couple tracks from Creators of the Sack reappear on this record, being Big Fat Fuck, How High Can You Fly, and Monique the Freak. Uvala, a track with two very different renditions. In 2003, the song was released as a bonus track on the Japanese exclusive version of Quebec. On early versions of the record, it was actually included as the third track on the record, but was removed before the initial release. In 2011, a completely different version of the track was released on the previously mentioned Caesar Demos. The Mollusk is the band's favorite album. That's about it. Claude's car accident. I'm shocked this hasn't come up yet, but Claude Coleman is the band's drummer and has been for a long time. In 2002, he survived a near-fatal car crash in which he suffered multiple pelvic fractures and brain injuries. The band would organize a charity event 2 months later where Josh Freese would join the band in Claude's place. He made a full recovery and rejoined the band until their breakup in 2012, and then he rejoined the band again when they reunited in 2016. B-sides and outtakes, I have almost no idea what this is in reference to. I found what I believe to be a fan-made compilation of B-sides and outtakes, but that's all I could really find. The Pod music videos. Following the Pod's release under Shimmy Disc Records, the label founder Mark Kramer gave the duo $2,500 and a trip to Jamaica to celebrate the record's release. The three men went to Jamaica and while there, filmed 3 music videos for the songs Captain Fantasy, Pollo Asado, and Pork Roll, Egg and Cheese, and there's some really strange videos. Beavis and Butthead. The band's initial rise to fame is partly due to what I will personally describe as the worst shit of all time, Beavis and Butthead. They initially appeared in Season 3, Episode 26, where Beavis and Butthead reacted to the music video Push the Little Daisies. Albeit not the easiest song to digest, but the duo trashed the song. They reappeared on the show with the tracks Freedom of 76 and I Can't Put My Finger on It, 2 songs the duo seemed to enjoy a bit more.
You. Shut up, fart knocker.
Dean met Glenn McClelland at a bar. Glenn McClelland, the band's keyboardist on every record since The Mollusk, first met the band through Diener at a bar. He said he had found a kindred spirit in him, even though they came from totally different musical backgrounds. Z-Rock Hawaii. Z-Rock Hawaii is a collaborative record released by Ween and a Japanese noise rock band called Boredoms. Diener first heard of the band when producer Andrew Weiss took him to see a show in 1993. Diener quickly became a fan and met the band and planned a joint session with Ween and Boredoms frontman Yamantaka Ai. The session took place around the same time as the Chocolate and Cheese sessions were being recorded and featured Ai using, quote, unconventional techniques like using an Evian bottle as a megaphone taped to a snare head with the other side mixed up with vibrating snares, whatever the fuck that means. The record would be released on September 6th, 1996. Beach House Flood. I guess the band had a beach house at some point in the late 90s, sometime during the Mollusk's release. The band had a beach house at some point in the late 90s, sometime around the Mollusk's release. The band had a beach house at some point in the late 90s, sometime around the Mollusk's release. What a tough word. The band had a beach house at some point in the late 90s, sometime around the Mollusk's release. During a brief period of burnout, the band hadn't returned to the beach house for several weeks. Upon returning to the house, Diener found the house was flooded due to the pipes freezing and bursting. The demo tapes they had recorded luckily survived, but a lot of the equipment did not. Diener recalled crying after this, but it didn't stop the band from renting the same beach house during the writing of 2 future records, being White Pepper and Quebec. The 2 missing songs from 12 Golden Country Greats. The record 12 Golden Country Greats is inexplicably only 10 tracks long. The 2 tracks excluded were titled I've Got No Dark Side and So Long Jerry. So Long Jerry was eventually released as a single, and I've Got No Dark Side has since been released on YouTube, though I couldn't find how it was released. Claude Aid. This is the charity event I spoke about earlier. It's the name of the event the band held to raise money for Claude's recovery following his near-fatal accident. Josh Freese, the drummer that played with the band during Claude's recovery period. He's played live with many huge bands, including the Foo Fighters and Nine Inch Nails. Push the Little Daisies reached number 18 in Australia. The song was relatively successful in Australia, peaking at number 18 on the Australian singles chart, and also being on that chart for 13 weeks. At the end of the year, it ranked 40th on the Hottest 100 music poll as well. Ashley Savage. Ashley Savage is the cover girl for the Chocolate and Cheese record. Mickey's Guide Fishing Service. I'm not sure of the legitimacy of this website, but it appears you can actually book a fishing trip with Diener, where he'll take you out on either the Delaware River or the Atlantic Ocean, and you can fish with him. It doesn't look like the website's been updated since 2017, but that was some cool shit. 500 minutes of Woman and Man were recorded because Andrew Weiss wanted it to be recorded in one shot. That's about it. Woman and Man off of La Cucaracha was recorded in one 500-minute long take. Dean and Jean kissing, I don't know. Jimmy Wilson Group, a group consisting of Diener, Chris Halford of Band of Changes, Bill Fowler of False Front, and Claude. They played 8 live shows in New Hope, Pennsylvania, where Ween originated, but never released any new music. They did covers and a lot of Ween songs. Crank Yankers cameo. Crank Yankers, a Comedy Central show with a strange synopsis. It says, Yankerville, a twisted town inhabited solely by puppets, is the setting for recreatings of actual crank phone calls. Comics and celebrities would appear on the show and make the calls. Ween featured in an episode and performed the song Hey There Fancy Pants off of Quebec. Cool shit.
Triola, spotlight shining bright tonight on you.
The Long Beach Island Tape. The Long Beach Island Tape is an unofficial name of a stolen tape of unreleased Ween songs. Supposedly around the White Pepper era, though it's fairly blatant. It features a couple demos of future White Pepper tracks, but also features several B-sides, most notably the song Wash You Down, which you may have heard on YouTube. The original tape was stolen from Jeaner's house at some point between 1998 and 2000. The band was fairly unhappy about the leak, expressing their disapproval outwardly, and even requesting fans to stop circulating the tape. It appears the band has become more lenient about the circulation of these tracks now, as they're all widely available just a YouTube search away now. Bilboa and Big Tammy Wesserman. These are both demo tapes released by the band around the time of the pod's creation. The Big Timmy Wasserman tape is said to have been recorded toward the end of the Godwin Satan era and the beginning of the pod, while the Bilboa tape was recorded exclusively during the pod era. Quebec's CD illustration also comes from Thorns. We talked about this. The story behind Tender Situation. Tender Situation is a track off of Pure Guava describing a time where Diener nearly left the band. Diener said, quote, "Back when I was a younger man, I pumped gasoline, and I was in Ween. And another band asked me if I wanted to go to Japan and play guitar with them. Well, Ween hadn't left the goddamn state of New Jersey at that point, and Gene Ween, as you can imagine, he was quite pissed off because all of a sudden, I'm going to go to Japan with this other band. So, we had a big fight about it, and he came down to the gas station and we talked about it, and I decided I wasn't going to go to Japan with those jerk-offs. And it turned out to be a good decision because good things happened for Ween, and we ended up going there 90 fucking times there ourselves. But after our little powwow at the gas station, we wrote the song Tender Situation. I still have it somewhere written on the back of the gas station slips. The pod studio version. Per Magnet Magazine. Dean and Gene Ween ended up sending Kramer, the record head, the home recordings that would become 1991's The Pod. We had been planning on re-recording them prior to releasing them, said Diener. When he heard them, he said, "No, this 4-track stuff is the shit. This is the album." And Shimmy Disc put it out essentially as we gave it to him. Makes you wonder what a fully produced The Pod might have sounded like, but we'll never know. Don't worry about it. Peel Sessions. Peel Sessions are live performances recorded on the BBC's Maida Vale studio for John Peel's radio shows on BBC Radio from 1967 until 2004. Ween appeared on the show twice, first in February of 1992 and second in April of 1993. The former show was pretty standard, but the latter show featured 4 unreleased tracks, which have since been released, but it featured an early rendition of Buckingham Green, a song that wouldn't officially be released until 4 years later. Brown Tracker. Brown Tracker was a fan website that users could archive live performances and outtakes from the band. It was initially created on November 30th, 2004, and by 2008, the website had 18,000 users. Strangely, the website banned 2 releases from the band, the previously mentioned Long Beach Island tape and Synthetic Socks, another demo tape we'll touch on a little later in this video. The website was shut down back in 2021, but the site owners announced a new project when they closed down the website, but nothing's been heard about it since. Ween.net forum. Pretty much Reddit before Reddit. It was a website where Ween fans could discuss the music online. The website is still up, though the forum part has been completely removed. Now it serves as a catalog of their music. Sky Cruiser. Sky Cruiser is a single released by the band in July of 1993. It never got much play and has never been played live. Dirty Money. This is a track released twice, strangely. Once as an iTunes single in 2005, and once on the deluxe edition of Chocolate and Cheese, which was released in 2024. The versions slightly differ, with the 2024 release being close to a minute shorter. I'm Fat. Another single released from the band, this one in 1994 following Sky Cruiser's release. The B-side of the release was also the song I'm Fat, but a remix that would play some of the vocals backwards and slowed the backing track down. Cover songs. There's too much for me to read off. I'm going to put the list on the screen here. Pause if you want to read it. Freeman and Dean Ween Group. Following the band's breakup in 2011, the gentlemen created their own solo projects. They both released 2 projects under their individual artist names before reuniting in 2016. The Mollusk Sessions, described as a semi-official bootleg, released on October 13th, 2007. It has tracks recorded during the first sessions of the Mollusk's recording prior to the Beach House flood I mentioned earlier. Here's the track list, a couple tracks that never made the record here, as well as some songs off of White Pepper. Cool shit. Leonard Cohen files Ween page. This is a written review from Leonard Cohen's fans about the pod. If you've forgotten, the pod's album cover is just the cover of the best of Leonard Cohen with Mean Ween's face pasted on it. It's a page-long review, but to sum it up, they didn't like the record and said, quote, "It has kind of a dark quality, stressed by repetitiveness, disharmony, slow-going syncopated rhythm, and abusive sound distortions, plus the occasional rocky guitar or bass. Lacked hitting woman on stage. This is inexplicably strange, and I don't have a real source on this one, so trust this deleted Reddit account with me, would you?" They said, "From my recollection, several girls came up onto stage as Buenas Tardes started and got topless, or were already topless. Security relatively quickly dispatched all but one, who was swaying in time to the music and squeezing her breasts as she sprayed milk on the crowd. Gina and Diener signaled their approval, and security allowed her to remain, permanently searing the image in my mind and seasoning the deal as one of the greatest shows ever. This is the recollection of a guy on mushrooms 17 years ago. Take that for what it's worth." Liveween.com. I have no idea what this is. If it ever was a website, it's not anymore. Pure Guava Baby Food. I found one singular Reddit post regarding this. There was once a Gerber Pure Guava Baby Food. Here's the lowest quality image I've ever seen in my entire life. Gina's Frankenfurter. Gina once performed a show as Frankenfurter of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. It was in 2013 after the band's breakup and was, quote, "quite an intimate affair with a fairly small crowd and very few Ween fans in attendance." Brownie Troop Fishing Show. This was a fishing show hosted by Diener where he would fish with various people. I think it's all on YouTube, actually. It's pretty easy to find. Are My Ears On Straight? This is a track dating back to 1953, released by Gayla Peavy. It's pretty blatantly the inspiration for the song I'm Dancing in the Show Tonight, to the point that even some of the lyrics are the same. Diener says that it's a cover of a now-lost song from a ballet practice record his sister had. No one's ever been able to find the record, but it shares the same melody as this track here. Diener has since called the decision to record this song a stupid fucking idea, but it was the perfect opening track for the Mollusk. Eulogy for David Anderson, an unreleased track that can now be found on the Caesar demo tape. It was written for an actual person named David Anderson, a friend of the band who had passed away in the year 2000. He had gone missing in New Hope in July of 2000 and was found dead in a canal slipway several days later. Sarah, Stay Forever, and I Don't Want It. A trilogy of some of the softer Ween tracks, these three all pretty blatantly love songs. All three written by Gina about his partner Sarah. Of course, Sarah came first, released on Pure Guava back in 1992, when the couple began dating. Next was Stay Forever, released in the year 2000 on White Pepper, after the couple had gotten married in 1999. The finale in the trilogy, I Don't Want It, released on Quebec in 2003, after the couple divorced earlier that year. It's heartbreaking to listen to. You can really listen to a young man fall in love, profess his love for that woman, and then kind of say goodbye. Incredibly profound. Boognish Rising Samplers. This refers to 3 more demo compilations, 2 of which were officially released by the band, being the Christmas 2013 sampler and the Thanksgiving 2014 sampler. But a third sampler was leaked back in 2021, titled Boognish Rising 2016 Summer Sampler. Strange the band wouldn't release the third tape themselves, but I don't know. What are you going to do? Ask the Dragon Ween Remix, a track by the legendary Yoko Ono, released on her 1995 album Rising. Ween was contacted by Sean Lennon, Yoko Ono's son, with a request to remix one of his mother's tracks as he was a huge fan. They did that shit, and it was released on a Yoko Ono EP called Rising Mixes in the year 1995. The Final Alarm, a Ween track with no known studio recording, a live-only track, if you would. It's said to be an outtake from the Mollusk sessions, and was written by Gina and Claude in a car on their way back from McDonald's. The lead vocals on the track are actually done by Claude, while Gina takes up the backing vocal role. The Ween box set. This is a triple vinyl release that dropped back in 2009 containing 12 Golden Country Greats, The Mollusk, and White Pepper. It looks like there were only ever 1,000 made, so pretty cool collector item. The Caesar Demos drama is a hoax. I touched on this a little earlier, but the Caesar Demos were originally released by Diener in 2011, and he had never talked to Jenner about it. There were rumors spread across the internet that Jenner was unhappy with this decision to release the record without checking with him, and that's kind of why they broke up the band. But he later came out and said that while he would have appreciated being checked in with about the record, there was no bad blood between them. Buckingham Green Shopping Center. Buckingham Green is a real place located in the duo's hometown of New Hope, Pennsylvania. That's about it. I'll link the website in the description, but it seems to just be a typical shopping center with a couple shops and some restaurants. Joppa Road. Joppa Road off of Chocolate and Cheese is actually a real road located in Maryland. That's all I have. La Cucaracha Studio. In 2006, the band rented a 200-year-old farmhouse in New Hope filled with black mold and made it into a home studio. Diener stated he ended up with an upper respiratory infection due to the horrible conditions, but even so, the band recorded at least 50 demos that would end up being cut down and turned into the monstrosity known as La Cucaracha. Sound of Urchin Orange EP. Sound of Urchin is another band coming out of New Hope, Pennsylvania that have been active since 1998. In 2000, the band would collaborate with Diener and release the Orange EP, which Diener actually produced. I can't find too much about it. It's a pretty obscure record. Synthetic Socks. Synthetic Socks is a record released by Jenner on July 30th, 1987, exclusively on cassette tape. He was only 17 at the time of the record's release and wrote in the liner notes, "Sprouted out of deep psychological problems, blossom into a young virgin sound just waiting to be heard. It's all recorded in my bedroom with my tape deck and whatever else I can borrow off people. Synthetic Socks consists of me and various guest stars. This cassette has been recorded over a span of about 10 years. I'm still in high school and plan to move where the trees live." It said only 38 original cassettes and 55 reissued copies were ever printed, though the music can be found pretty easily online now. Old Ween fan sites. I feel like we've touched on most of the major ones already, but I'm sure there's some niche website you used that I didn't name, so for that, I'm sorry. Queens of the Stone Age, Songs for the Deaf. One of the greatest rock albums of the 21st century and a record that Diener appeared on at least 3 times, being the tracks Six Shooter, Go With the Flow, and Mosquito Song. Diener himself doesn't actually know which parts of the record he appears on, but he's credited on those 3 tracks. There's also a cracked out fan theory that he does the vocals on Mosquito Song, but it's never been confirmed, and I don't think so. Stay Forever is about Jack Black's wife. I have no idea how this became popularized, but there's a singular live show from 2012 in which Jenner says this track is about Jack Black's wife, Tanya Hardin. That's all I could really find. I don't know if they dated at some point. I don't know, man. Don't ask me.
Here's a song I wrote about Jack Black's wife a long time ago. It's real, true, for real.
Jenner hates La Cucaracha. Jenner was fairly unhappy throughout the creation of La Cucaracha, stating, "In the beginning of Ween, we probably merged a lot more. We're probably in more of our White Album stage at this point. We talk to each other occasionally." He also expressed his dissatisfaction with the completed product, though he did say he thought a bunch of the songs on it were good. Shinola Volume 2. The title of the original Shinola, being Shinola Volume 1, implies the existence of a Shinola Volume 2, and while I remember reading somewhere that Diener said it existed at some point, the band clearly has no interest in releasing it at this point in their career. Almost 20 years removed from their final studio record, no way. Transdermal EP. Nothing too wacky here, an EP with an unconfirmed release date only stating 2003, at some point in that year. It has 4 tracks off of Quebec, being Transdermal Celebration, Tried and True, It's Gonna Be a Long Night, and Hey There Fancy Pants. Echoes cover with False Front. Ween has covered the song Echoes by Pink Floyd on a couple occasions, twice with False Front, another band Ween was good friends with, and they would perform the song in its entirety, which would typically take them about 38 minutes. Once in 1992, and again in 1995. Diener would play the song again in 2014 during the Ween hiatus, again featuring several members of False Front and the legendary Mean Ween I've mentioned a couple times now. Another little fun fact I'm surprised wasn't on this iceberg, but the song Echoes can actually be heard at the end of the song Birthday Boy off of God Ween Satan. Ween was too cheap to buy fresh tapes and would instead record their demos over old tapes they had lying around. This one happened to be Echoes live at Pompeii. Cool shit. Kid Jenner on Philly Goat. Philly Goat is a merch store for a lot of the Philadelphia sports teams. They made a Facebook post around a year ago now featuring an incredibly young Gene Ween at a Phillies game sporting a Phillies shirt. Copies of the pod missing the Stallion Part 1. Strangely, many original copies of the pod exclude only the first part of the Stallion. The original CD releases exclude the first part of the Stallion on both the front and the back covers, and it wasn't until the Elektra reissue where the problem was rectified. The song is also very rarely included on the vinyl covers, even in the reissued copies, and can only be found on the Choco Dog Grey disc released in 2018 in the UK. 12 Golden Country Greats Beans. I guess for promotion, Mushroom Records, who would release 12 Golden Country Greats, released a limited edition of Ween beans to any HMV customer purchasing the record on the day of its release. White Pepper Salt Dispenser, I can't find anything about this. I imagine it was a similar situation to that of the beans, and White Pepper Salt Dispensers were given out as gifts of purchase with the release of White Pepper. I couldn't find any pictures or really anything to back that up, though. Pure Guava and Chocolate Cheese Mouse Pads, same kind of thing. I couldn't find anything that looked official, but I found a couple of what I think are knockoffs on Amazon, if that makes you feel better. Pierogies. Pierogies is an incredibly short-lived collaborative project between Diener and his son Michael. They only ever released 2 tracks, being Fire Witch and Number 2. Carpet the Cat. Carpet the Cat is a stuffed animal that travels with Dave Drewitz, touring bassist for Ween, and occasionally appears on stage at their shows. The Golden Jew. As far as I can tell, the Golden Jew is a nickname that Diener went by at some point. I've only really seen it referenced in social media comments, so take it with a grain of salt, but he is Jewish. Bananas and Blow album concept. During the creation of The Mollusk, the duo had an idea to travel to Havana, Cuba, and live entirely on bananas and cocaine for an entire month while they made a new record. The 4th side was planned to be entirely the song Bananas and Blow, extended to 25 minutes. The idea was scrapped, and the track was later released on White Pepper. Mrs. Slack. I'm just going to read you this next part truthfully. I don't understand what's going on. Mrs. Slack is the name of a semi-uncirculated EP made by Ween, self-released by U-Cassettes in 1984. U-Cassettes, of course, being a homemade music label created by Diener operating between 1984 and 1986, while he was in high school. It's one of the few Ween releases that can't be found in its original form, though 8 tracks can be found on the Prime 5 compilation tape I mentioned earlier, and 2 more can be found on the 1986 reissue. Whether or not they cut tracks between the original release and the reissue, I don't know, man, don't ask me. Ween/Smersh. This is a split record released by Ween and New Jersey punk duo Smersh, released in 1986 under the U-Cassettes label Diener ran. Only 25 copies were ever made, and it only features 2 tracks, Fred by Ween and Edgar by Smersh. Teriyaki Asthma Volume 8. I'm sure you've heard of the first 7 Teriyaki Asthmas, but for those of you that are unfamiliar, this is a series of compilations made by CZ Records featuring one Ween track titled Long-Legged Sally Was a No-Necked Whore, a previously unreleased track outside of the Bilboa demo tape. Lost demo songs and tapes. There's a giant, massive list of tracks the band has lost over the last 30 years. I'll link it in the description if you're interested, but the odds of any of these songs ever seeing the light of day are slim to none. Unfinished 10th album. In a 2010 interview with the National Post, Diener said Ween was due in the studio for a 10th studio album. Nothing has been said since, nothing implying a 10th album ever releasing since that brief interview. Love Comes Down, 9/11/2001. An unreleased track from the Quebec era, later released on the Caesar demos. It's pretty blatantly a tribute for the September 11th attacks, and that's about the size of it. Chocolate and Cheese voted sexiest album cover of all time. It's true. Playboy magazine voted the cover the sexiest of all time shortly after its release in 1994. Keen Ween. On one singular Reddit post, I found a picture of the cassette tape for the Crucial Squeegee Lip and Axis Bold as Booknish, in which someone named Keen Ween is credited. That's all the information I have for you. Who is this? I don't know. Is this a real person? I don't know. One guy on Reddit said it was somebody named Keen Hepburn. Let's take his word for it. Feminine Hygiene Ween. Scott Lowe. A longtime friend of the band who participated in some of the band's earlier work, including Spleen and Don't Get Too Close to My Fantasy, as well as I Like You. Lean Cuisine Ween, Chris Hoke. I believe this rounds out the rest of the Ween cinematic universe. It's another friend of the band, whose only known appearance with the band is his lead vocal performance on the song The Refrigerator That Wouldn't Close off the Crucial Squeegee Lip. In the intro of said track, I believe Diener can be heard referring to Chris as Lean Cuisine Ween, making him the 4th Ween nickname acknowledged by the band, them being Gene, Dean, Mean, and Lean Cuisine. Boogish.com's LMLYP gallery. We're just going to have to move past this one. Acidhead.jpg, Dave2.jpg, and New132. I don't know. Sorry. I can't find shit about any of these. What Diener was talking about. Of course, in reference to the track, what's Diener talking about off of Chocolate and Cheese? In his early 20s, Diener had frequent panic attacks and pretty bad anxiety, which Diener would help him through. Upon experiencing his own panic attack, Diener wrote this track as a, quote, empathetic exercise. Diener spoke on the song a bit and said, acute anxiety is a bitch, though. It means you live in a constant state of panic. Fight or flight syndrome, they call it as well. Anyway, I guess Aaron got a good dose of it himself one day and wrote that song. GRGI and Mutant Pig Devil. 2 alternate logos I imagine the band considered using towards the beginning of their career. There's art of them on the Erica Peterson's Flaming Crib Death tape next to the Boognish. Z-Rock Hawaii 2. I mentioned Z-Rock Hawaii earlier as a collaboration between Ween and Boredoms, but I didn't mention their planned second record. Apparently there was also another record being worked on in late 2001, but there have been no leaks and certainly no sign of it ever being released. Friends, Ween Meets the Crazy Frog remix. Yeah, this is real. Friends off of the Friends EP was remixed on fucking Crazy Frog's third album, titled Everybody Dance Now. About as terrible as you would expect. I don't want to talk about it anymore. New Jeaner pick. Let's just erase that one. That's better. And that's the entire Ween Iceberg top to bottom. This took some time, some diligence, some trips to inexplicable places on the internet, so if you enjoyed, please like and subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.